Hello everyone, bolt action fans, and welcome to another issue of my review of bolt action 3rd edition. And today, Wednesday, Warlord made a release on the Warlord community website about the changes to making to platoon selection. So the old generic reinforced platoon that was in 2nd edition is no more, and what they've done is they've broke it down into various platoons, which we'll have a look at in a second. So your core will be a rifle platoon, which we'll look at, and once you've fulfilled the requirements of the rifle platoon, you can then add other platoons to the rifle platoon to make up your whole army. So we've got the rifle platoon, which is your core, your compulsory choice. Then you've got a heavy weapon platoon, an engineering platoon, artillery platoon, armour platoon, and a recce infantry platoon. So let's have a look at them one at a time. So let's put the rifle platoon, which is your infantry platoon. So this is your core unit, so let's have a look at this first. So as in 2nd edition, when you created your list, you had mandatory units which you had to include, and if you look at the list, this is still the same. You still have to take a platoon commander, and you still have to take 2 infantry squads. Now the difference with this is your core unit, you have to take this, but if you look, you cannot take engineers as part of this rifle platoon. It has to be infantry. So your options are, you have your platoon commander, as I said, and 2 infantry squads, and then you can take an additional 2 infantry squads, which is different from the generic because you've allowed 0 to 3 extra infantry squads, so there's 1 less infantry squad there. You can have a medic, forward observer, sniper team, anti-tank team, light mortar team, and a transport vehicle. Now it's got 0 to 1, but what it says in the writing is 0 to 1 transport vehicle, soft skinned or armoured per unit in the platoon. So me reading that means that the platoon commander and both of the infantry squads for the mandatory units can take a transport vehicle each. That's the way I read that. So that's your rifle platoon. So you have to take that as your main thing. Then on top of that, you can add things to it. So first off, let's have a look at the heavy weapons platoon. Now, if you remember 2 weeks or so ago, I put a video out saying I was concerned about a statement that Warlord had put out about how this new platoon system was going to work, and my fears were partially correct. I said that it would be horrible if you could spam things, so you could take 6 Nebelwerfers, for instance. Well, you can take multiple of everything, but it's not 6. I think the max you can take is 4, but we'll get into that now. So for each rifle platoon, you can take 1 each of the extra platoons. So if you've got a rifle platoon, you can take a heavy weapons platoon, but only 1. So if you've got 2 rifle platoons, you can take 2 heavy weapons platoons, and so on. So anyway, so a heavy weapons platoon, again, is your platoon commander, 2 machine gun teams or mortar teams, and then your options are, you can add 0 to 3 mortars, 0 to 3 machine guns, 0 to 3 anti-tank teams, and again 1 transport for each that you've got in the platoon. Now this means that if you feel this, so you have to take your compulsory, so you take your compulsory unit, 1 platoon commander and 2 infantry squads. Then you take a heavy weapons platoon, 1 platoon commander and 2 machine gun teams, or 2 mortar teams, but you can then add an additional, you can take one of each, you can then add additional ones. So you could take a mortar platoon, you can take a platoon commander and 5 medium mortars as part of this heavy weapons platoon, which is crazy. Or platoon commander and 5 machine gun teams. Now, I don't know whether the US rule where they could take 3 machine guns for 1 machine gun slot still exists. If that's the case, then you can take 5 machine gun teams on this heavy weapons platoon, but with the US option to take 3 for 1, it means they could field 15 medium machine guns, inexperienced medium machine guns, which is just crazy. It's going to be expensive to buy them. I don't know how well they'll play, but that's an option. So next up, we'll have a look at engineer platoon. Now, each of the platoons seem to follow the same sort of structure. So your engineer platoon, again, is a platoon commander and 2 engineer squads. Now, the engineer squads must have the engineer special rule. So you can't put normal infantry squads in an engineer platoon, like you can't put engineer squads in a rifle platoon. They're separate. So you can have 0 to 2 extra engineer squads, 0 to 3 flamethrower teams, and again a transport for each of the options there. Now, it's interesting because reading this means that a flamethrower is no longer part of an engineer squad. In 2nd edition, if you've got an engineers, assault engineer, like say US assault engineers, you could add a flamer to the assault engineer squad. But me reading this, the flamethrower is just a team, it's not part of the squad. Whether they can be attached, I don't know, but at the moment it looks like they're not part of the squad. And next up is artillery platoon. Now, this is the one that I gave the example of in my video 2 weeks ago. What if you could take my thought was that they were going to do away with the 0 to 1 option in the old 2nd edition generic reinforced platoon and make it say 0 to 5, which is sort of what they've done, but they've done it in a roundabout way. But on this artillery platoon, it actually says there artillery battery, because that's what it is. So again, you have to take a platoon commander, and then you take 1 field artillery, anti-aircraft or anti-tank gun. Now, what if you take a naval warfare? And then the optional units, you can take an additional 0 to 3 field artillery, anti-aircraft or anti-tank gun. So that means you can take 4 naval warfares if you've got the miniatures. So that is just crazy. Pin City. If you take your rifle platoon, if you take a heavy weapons platoon with mortars, and if you take an artillery platoon with naval warfares, you're throwing out HE and pins everywhere. Crazy. I mean, I don't know what the restrictions are going to be, but I'm sure that in a 1,000-point game, as it used to be in 2nd edition, you could probably only get 3 of these platoons into 1,000 points. So you could take a rifle platoon, a weapons platoon, and an engineer platoon, or rifle, weapons, artillery, armoured, etc. So let's have a look at the armour platoon next. So the mandatory units on the armour platoon is a platoon command vehicle. Now it can be a tank, tank destroyer, assault gun, self-propelled artillery, anti-aircraft vehicle or armoured car. And this vehicle has the command vehicle special rule, or has been given this rule from its entry options. If no such vehicle is available to the player, the vehicle can be given the command special rule at 10 points, even if the entry does not normally allow this option. So you got to have a platoon command vehicle, and then you've got one vehicle from tank, tank destroyer, assault gun, self-propelled artillery, anti-aircraft vehicle or armoured car, and then optional units, 0 to 3 vehicles from tank, tank destroyer. So basically what this is saying is, no longer in 2nd edition you could build your list and you could add a tank to your list. You can no longer add a tank. You could add a tank, but to add a tank you've got to add another vehicle. So you've got to have an armoured car and a tank, or 2 tanks, or an assault gun and a tank, etc. It's no longer, you can no longer just take a single tank as part of your generic pool. The generic platoon no longer exists. This is now the way of doing it. Now I don't know whether this has been done to try and push people towards Achtung Panzer. I don't know. I also don't know whether the points cost of a general game is going to go up from 1,000 points to 1,250 or 1,500. I don't know. If you look back through my battle reports in January this year, we played a 1,500 point 2 platoon games, which was an infantry platoon and a 3 tank platoon, and it really played really well. It was a really good game to play, and that's the type of thing I could do with this, but the points cost is going to be higher. You're not going to be playing 1,000 point games and taking tanks. I mean, to squeeze a Tiger in was nearly 500 points in a 1,000 point game. You can't do that no more, because you've got to pay tax. You've got to pay another vehicle as a tax penalty to take it. So if you take a Puma as your command vehicle, you're going to pay 100 odd points for the Puma plus 10 points to give it the command rule, and then you got to pay another 500 points for your Tiger. So there could be less vehicles on the table, but there again, the points costs might be different. I'm going on the points of 2nd edition. I don't know what the points are going to be in 3rd edition. That's another thing we're going to have to wait and see. And the last of the 6 options is a recce infantry platoon. Now again, same format as the others. You've got a platoon commander, then you've got 1 infantry squad. Again, can't have the engineers rule. Engineers are for engineer platoons only. Optional units is another 0 to 3 infantry squads, 1 forward observer if you want to take one, 1 anti-tank team if you want to take one. So you can take a bazooka team. I'm going US because I've played US more than anything. So you can take a bazooka team in a recce infantry platoon, and you can take a bazooka team in your rifle platoon. So you can take 2. I don't know how it's going to work with the army lists that were in the campaign book, etc. Some of the lists in the campaign books allowed me to take 2 bazooka teams with my US, which I used to find really effective. So not sure how it's going to work. And then you got transports. So the transport must include enough transport vehicles, soft skin armour to transport all models in the infantry. But all these transport vehicles must have the recce rule, special rule, or must be given the recce special rule at 10 points, even if the entry does not allow this option. Oh, so that's good then. So you can take, so basically if you're going to take a recce infantry platoon, that platoon, you've got to pay a tax on it. So you can take a platoon commander and an infantry squad, but you're going to have to give them a vehicle, and you pay 10 points to give that vehicle a recce. Interesting. There's good possibilities there. You could take a platoon commander, 2 infantry squads and an anti-tank team and put them in a couple of trucks. Because it says it must include enough transport vehicles to transport all models in the infantry units in this platoon. So that doesn't mean you have to take one transport vehicle per entry as it does in the others. It says must include enough transport vehicles to transport all models. So if you bring something like a deuce and a half, 2.5 ton truck, which I think has a capacity of 18, you could get your platoon commander, your infantry, 2 infantry, 2 5-6 man infantry squads, and an anti-tank team, all inside that deuce and a half. Give it 10 points to make it recce, and there's your recce platoon. That's a bad example. You're probably better off with bringing a couple of jeeps and putting them all in jeeps or whatever, but that's an example. So that's it. That is the new structure of your platoon. Generic career force platoons are no more. Interesting to know what your thoughts are. This has a lot of potential for abuse, but this is going by using this way of building your generic reinforced platoon from 2nd edition. So if you're using 2nd edition rules, 2nd edition points, but using this method to build your platoon, it's open to abuse. We're going to have to wait and see what the rest of the rules are going to be. So hit the like and subscribe button and come back and join me next time when we look at the next lot of rules that Warlord release, and we'll have a discussion. And again, don't forget to give me your thoughts on what the new platoon structure's like. See you all next time.
And if, which I do not for a moment